Hello. Welcome to this new video. This time we're going to cover CEH version 13 module 6, and that is system hacking. If you follow my channel, you know that I have created a video on all previous modules, and we're going to continue to create videos on all of them. Something to keep in mind is that system hacking, as per the official documentation of ECC console, they want you to learn about the various system hacking methodologies used to discover systems and network vulnerabilities, including steganography. And this is something that you need to know because they're going to throw you questions on that. Stag analysis attacks, they're going to ask you questions about these two and other tools. Something that I want to bring over to your attention, I'm bringing over this table that I created with the most popular hacking tools that are going to be asking you on the test about Module 6, which is system hackings. And you need to have an idea of what they are and what they do, and at least have an idea of how to use them, even if at a basic level. So let's go over them real quick. Just make sure that you have an understanding of what they are. We have Metasploit framework, and as the name implies, Metasploit is a framework that can be used for many different things. I have created a couple of videos on Metasploit. If you're interested in learning more about it, do the search in my channel. You're going to find videos on that. But you need to know that this is one of the primary tools that you're going to be using for system hackings. And the purpose of that, exploit vulnerabilities and maintain access depending on the different modules that you use within the framework. And the key features of the tools: exploit databases, payload creation, so on and so forth. Then we have Hydra, and I have also created videos on Hydra. That is a tool that is going to allow you to perform brute force password attacks on the different protocols. As you can see here, one of them, for example, is going to be SSH, FTP, HTTPS, RDP, so on and so forth. You can see that in there. You can also search the video that I have created for that. Then we have John the Reaper, which is an offline password cracking tool. You have John the Reaper for Windows, and you have John the Reaper for Linux. We have Hashcat, and on the real world, this is one of the most popular tools that I have used and that I've seen people using. It doesn't mean that it's the only one. It's just one of those things that has become very popular. So with Hashcat, you're going to be able to perform GPU password crackings. Netcat, oh my god, Netcat is a Swiss Army tool that can be used for almost anything, and this is something that you definitely need to know for the exam, the different options that you can use that for system hackings and maintain access to the system. Then we have services. We have other tools that are going to allow you to identify vulnerabilities. It's a nice way of identifying potential vulnerabilities on a system, and that's going to be Windows Exploit Suggester and Linux Exploit Suggester. These are just basically scripts that run scan against your target and then compare potential exploits that can be found on that. It's going to make your life easier to an extent. Instead of you doing that manually, going to the exploit database and find the exploit, you could do it all from that tool. Always remember to verify findings with other tools, or to be honest with you, you can also use artificial intelligence, one of these like tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini, and just type the description of the host that you have of your target and put what vulnerabilities can attack or are known for this specific host, and you're going to get a similar result. So these tools are good to know for the exam. But now with AI, AI is making your job easier when it comes to cybersecurity. Then we have STGuide, which is steganography, hiding data and images in other files, and that is a concept that you're going to be able to hide files within files. they're gonna ask you questions about that. So make sure you have an understanding of what steganography is and how to detect it and what tools you can use for that. Cover My Tracks is another tool that you're gonna be able to use to clear evidence of the attack. Wireshark, you'll always be asked questions about Wiresharks, because when it comes to system hacking, Wiresharks can be used for so many different things. Even though it's not a hacking tool, the information you collect from there could potentially be used for break into systems or protect systems if you are an auditors. Then we have Gain Enable, Password Recovery, PWDOM, another password extraction tool. Mimikatz, very, very powerful tool that you can use on Windows. And it's not gonna be only for extracting password. It's gonna have a whole bunch of different things you can do with it. I'll create a video for that later, but it's a very powerful tool. And then we have Netstat, which is to see information about your system, to see network activities, and Process Explorer, which is part of CeHv13, which is a very powerful tool to monitor running processes. So you can take actions on that. Now, this list that I have created, I'm not going to say that it is complete, but I'm sure based on experience that you're going to get many questions on them, especially when it comes to Hydra, Metasploit, Hashcat, Netcat, and all of these tools. The reason for that is because they've been standard tools for many, many years. And, it's a good thing to know, to know how to use those tools. So when it comes to system hacking, you have to keep in mind that the main objective of system hacking is to gain access. Obviously, in this case, we're specifically talking about unauthorized access, or let me say this, if you're doing a pen test, your access is authorized by the company, by the contract, but you are gaining access in a way that you're not supposed to gain access. So remember that the purpose of this video is to teach you about the CEHv13 exam and help you to become a cybersecurity professional. The intentions of these videos is not to show people how to perform malicious hacking, because that's not the purpose, right? You can find that information somewhere else, not here. So for the test, remember that the purpose is to gain access to the system. And then once you gain access, you have to remember that that's not the final goal, because you may gain access to a system but have no privileges to do anything in that system. So you also want to escalate your privileges. And then once you escalate the privileges, ideally you would like to maintain the access that you have there. And the ultimate goal is for you to extract whatever information you're looking for and clear the track so nobody knows that you were there. To perform all that, right, let me bring this here now. Let me get out of here. You have to use a variety of tools, right? And these are some of the tools that I was mentioning before, and a variety of techniques for you to be able to perform those functions. And on your systems, right? And this is something that in this case, I have a Kali Linux computer, but you can perform system hacking or get better at it from any Windows machines. Like you need to know the tools that you're going to be using, and those are some of the tools that I mentioned before. You can do it through Metasploit, you can do it through Netcat, you can do it through Hydra. So you're going to be using different tools and different social engineering techniques to collect the information that you need, so that later you can ideally get information to the system and maintain access to the system and hack into the system and move laterally in the network. So another thing that I want to mention, and I'm going to bring the questions, I have 25 questions that I want to go over for this module, is when you're doing this as part of growing professionally, this is all great right here in a contained lab environment. And when we're talking about these tools, In a real business environment, in a matured business environment, I should say, they are going to have tools or systems that could potentially detect and stop all of these tools that we're talking about right now. So this concept is in theory more than in practice. You could do this in practice on a one-to-one level or in a small network, or these are the same tools that you're going to use in a complex engagement. But what I'm trying to say, don't think that because you are using Metasploit here and you're going to be able to run a couple of exploits and be successful in your lab, that's going to be the same case in the work environment, because most likely that's not going to be the case, but it could be the case. What I'm trying to say is, like, get rid of that mentality that by learning a couple of tools, you're going to be unstoppable, because that's not the case. As a matter of fact, even an antivirus can stop many of these things right here unless you know your way around it. And that's how you get better into information security and cybersecurity. But we're talking about the CEH exam here, which is like an entry level, something that's going to help you grow in your career. So let's go over the questions right now to make sure that you are successful passing and nailing that exam. I'm going to try to move fast on these topics, and I'm going to explain some of these questions. And again, this is in theory. I'm going to create videos of how to use these tools to help you understand them better. But let's go over this to make sure you understand the questions and the concepts. And as you can imagine, what is the primary goal of system hacking, ethical hacking? And that is that you want to gain access to the system, right? And as I have mentioned before, it doesn't necessarily have to be unauthorized in the sense of that they don't know what you're doing. If that's part of an engagement, they have an idea that you're going to do that. But this would be the best answer, gaining unauthorized access. You have to know your tools. Which tool is commonly used for privilege escalation in a Windows system? So you have to know the tools. Out of all these tools that you have listed here, the only one that makes sense is Windows Exploit Suggester. And let me show you, if you do a search for Windows Exploit Suggester, you're going to get a couple of links. This is one of the most popular tools that you can use. And as you could see here in the About section, this tool compares a target patch level against the Microsoft Vulnerability Database in order to detect potential missing patches. So that is the purpose of the tool. It's a good tool to use. There are many out there. This is going to make your job perhaps a little bit easier. As you can see, I'm using a Kali computer. In this case, you can also go through the exploit database and specify your target or application that you want to find exploit for, and you're going to get that information as well. So there are many different ways that you can achieve the same goal. But for the exam, when it comes to the tools to that are going to help you in privilege escalation, out of these options, this is the only one that makes sense. What is the purpose of the SAM file in Windows? If you're a Windows user, you know that this is one of those things that's been around since forever, and the purpose of that is to store the password hashes, right, in your Windows machine. So that is a simple thing. Like, the other options don't make any sense. Name a tool that can extract password hashes from the SAM file, and I'm gonna perform some of these examples later. But one of the many tools that you can use, and out of these tools, is PW dump. You can do that with Kane Enable as well, but it's not a tool that is gonna only extract password hashes. You can do other things with that. So the best answer to that question is PD dump. And again, as I mentioned to you before, this is one of those things that looks great on theory, but if you try to use pdump, most likely that's going to be flagged by the antivirus on your host computer. So you have to do workarounds to make sure that that is successful. You may have to disable the antivirus or find some ways to hide this file as it's running. Which password cracking tool supports GPU accelerations, and that is Hashcat. I created a video on that. It's very useful. It's very powerful, actually. But again, when it comes to password crackings, that is a great thing that you know how to do password cracking. It's a great thing that you know the different tools, but that's not going to be one of the most successful ways for you to compromise systems. Obviously, it all depends on the vulnerability the system has, but this is something that now the password are becoming so secure. Multi-factor authentication is being used in place. So that thing of password spraying, like on a normal network with normal security controls, like that's not going to work. But they're still useful tools, and this is something that you need to know for the exam. If you want to be successful in cybersecurity, you have to, once you get your CEH, concentrate on either application security or cloud security. Obviously, you need to know all these basic foundational tools. That's what we're covering, but that's not going to be, that shouldn't be the end to your career. That's what I'm trying to say. What is the difference between a rootkit and a Trojan? And that's been around since forever. The answer for that is that rootkits hide malicious activities and Trojans disguise a malicious software as legitimate. That would be the question that you need to, or the answer that you need to know for the exam. The other options don't make much sense. This is the one that makes more sense. Which tool is known as the Swiss Army knife of networking? And there are many of them, but in this case, it's Netcat. Netcat is very powerful, as a matter of fact. I don't remember if I have a video on that, but if I don't, I'm going to create a couple of videos, because this is one of those tools that you really need to know. And as a matter of fact, you're going to get a couple of questions on Netcat on your exam. When it comes to some foundational tools, you have Wireshark and you have Nmap and you have Netcat. Those are questions you're going to be tested on. Then we have number 8. What is the main purpose of steganography in system hacking? And again, steganography is when you are hiding something in something else, right? So in this case, the only option that makes sense is hiding data within other files, right? So that is a long process. It is easy to do that. It is easy to undo that, and it's also easy to detect depending on the type of system you're using. But it's one of those things that you're going to get a handful of questions on. So let's go to number 9. Name a common tool used to analyze processes running on a Windows system, and that is Process Explorer. And you could either use SysInternal, which is one of the most powerful tool sets out there. They have Process Explorer. You can also use Task Manager Process Explorer, but it's not as informative. It does not provide as much information as SysInternal's ones. What is the function of Mimikatz in system hacking? And that is extract plain text credentials and hashes from memory, and that is if the system does not have anything that's going to identify it as a potential malicious tool. But that's the only option that makes sense. Delete user's activity, no. Scan for open ports, absolutely not. It's going to extract plain text credentials. Which command lists active network connections on a system? And the answer to that question is netstat. You need to know netstat, right? So netstat. Netstat is gonna display the sessions on your computer, and this is the default output on Windows, but you can concentrate on the protocols, on the transport protocols, either UDP or TCP. As you could see, it's doing TCP first, and it's gonna go, I believe, into the UDP, or you can force it with UDP. But this is one of those commands that you need to know not only for the exam, you need to know this as a security professional. Like, as you can see here, that's gonna show you the established sessions between your host and the remote host, and it's gonna display the protocols. And depending on the switches that you use, you're gonna be able to also display the executables that are working on that specific session. So for that, you would have to let me just do this, stop this for 1 second. You do netstat, you're gonna see a lot of that information, and this is super useful, especially when it comes to investigations and analysis. Like using that tools on a Windows machine is very good. So the answer to that question is netstat. 12, what is the purpose of a reverse shell? And this is something that you use a lot with Netcat and within Metasploit. And the answer for that is to connect back to a compromised system. So in order for you to create a reverse shell, first of all, you have to have access to the system. So you can create a reverse shell for that. Name a tool used to automate the deletion of attack traces on a compromised systems. And this is cover my track, right? Like the other tools don't make any sense. It's for something else. So you have to know of that tool. How does John the Ripper differ from Hydra? So the main difference is that John the Ripper is going to be used for offline password cracking. And by offline password cracking, it means that you have the hash with you and you upload that file to John the Ripper, and it's going to do the job of trying to break into or crack that password file offline, right? Meaning that you're not going to be actively attacking the system, that hash is already downloaded. Whereas Hydra is going to perform brute force attacks on services. So you don't have the hash, so you're going to like try your best against the services that are running on your target system. So it's going to be a online type of attack. Okay, so I just realized that I had paused the video for 1 second, and I don't know what question I was on, but I'm gonna pick up on this. What is the significance of the administrator account in system hacking? And the only question that makes sense here, it is that A, it is a high privilege account targeted for complete control. But what I was explaining before is that this is just for the test, but in reality, most default administrator accounts are disabled. Like the name, you still have admin privileges with other accounts, but the administrator account is disabled. So this question should have been, what is the significance of the admin privilege in hacking systems, right? Not so much of the administrator, because you can strip the privileges from the administrator accounts and have another account be the powerful account. But anyway, so you get the point. For the test, know that. Which Metasploit module is commonly used to create a persistent backdoor? And again, like if you need help with Metasploit, you don't need to be an expert at it. You need to have a basic foundational knowledge of it and understanding. I have a series on Metasploit that I believe is going to be useful to you, and that's going to be in the post-exploitations persistent module. What type of vulnerability does the tool can enable target? And here we have that with key enable, you can do network password recovery and or poisoning. And I created a couple of cool videos on or poisoning if you don't know what that is or how it works. But with that, we didn't use key enable, we used other tools. How can a rootkit evade detection on a compromised system? And this is what I was telling you before, that when you compromise a system, you have to find a way to disable the antivirus, the anti-malware, or whatever option they have there to detect malicious software. And out of these options, you may be thinking that by encrypting malicious files, that used to be the case back in the days, and maybe that's still happening nowadays. The answer that they're looking for, at least for the exam, is by operating at the kernel level. And good luck, right? Like I'm sorry, let me take that back. I know that many different people with different backgrounds are watching this video, and maybe you are a programmer who wants to know more about cybersecurity. So when you write the code, you can write the code to operate at the kernel level, right? Like I don't have the knowledge to do that, to be honest with you. So I would have to rely on tools that do that. But again, to get to the kernel level on a system, it has to be a highly sophisticated tool, or that is exploiting a patch that has not been fixed yet, because operating systems rarely let unauthorized files and processes work at the kernel level, right? So you have that in there. Name a common method used to maintain access to a hacked system. And this is an interesting question, because we have creating a reverse shell, which is could be a valid answer. Installing a rootkit, not necessarily, because you're not really going to maintain access that way. You could add a backdoor or user accounts, or exploit a zero-day vulnerabilities. No, this is not it, because that vulnerability could be patched and you don't have it's not under your control. Installing a rootkit is not either. So to me, it's between these two, adding backdoors or user accounts and creating a reverse shell. So to me, either of these two questions would be a valid answer. But if I have to choose one in the exam, I would go with adding a backdoor. Because that's a secure way, even when the system reboots, to get back into the system. Which tool is used to recover deleted files on a Windows system? And if you're not familiar with this tool, just Google it. It's Recuva, and that's the only option that makes sense, to be honest with you. That's one of those things that you have to keep in mind when taking the exam. If you don't have the answer, or if you don't know the answer, just go with the one that makes the most sense to you. At least you're going to be able to increase the odds that way. What is the primary use of netstat command in system hacking? So we have analyze active connection for suspicious activity, scan for vulnerabilities, enumerate, retrieve passwords. And no, this is it, to analyze traffic, active connections for suspicious activity. Now, with Nmap, as I mentioned before, not Nmap, Netstat, right? So with Netstat, in and of itself, you're not going to get much information here, but you can expand your searches by using different commands and see what executable files are active on that specific process. So we're wrapping it up here. What is the function of cover my tracks in ethical hacking? And that is identify weaks, automate. Right here, it's going to clear the logs. That's a pretty good one. Name a tool used to crack password hashes offline. And we talked about John the Reaper before, but in this case it's Hashcat. And the last question of this module, how does Hashcat improve the efficiency of password cracking, and that is that you're going to be able to utilize if your hardware supports it. GPU acceleration. That's one of the ways that you can do that. So these were 25 questions on module 6 of CEH ethical hacking, which is system hacking. Again, remember to understand the concept, to understand the purpose, and please have a good understanding of what these tools do and how they work. I am going to create a series of videos on some of these tools. I already have videos on many of them. So if you want to know more about Metasploit, the basic, how to use it, the different modules, I have many, probably 3 or 4 videos on that. I have videos on Netstat, on Process Explorer, on Hashcat, on Hydra. So go through my channel and find all that information that you may need reinforcement on. And, so that way you can understand the tool better. It's going to be easier for you if you know how to use the tool. Trying to just memorize what a tool is or does is better if you use the tool and if you see it in practice. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for all of you requesting different topics and leaving feedback on these videos. All I ask for you to do, if you found this information useful, please click on the like button, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you know of anyone who can benefit from this information or any of the information that I have on the channel, please feel free to share that information as well so we can grow this channel even more. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you on the next video.